Is anybody here a twin?
I'm best friends with twins.
Do they have this weird connection where it's almost telepathic?
They have a weird connection, but I think it is because they are sisters, not because they are twins. However, they are not identical.
Identical twins, there is some evidence that there's something telepathic between the two.
There's a lot of anecdotal evidence, and you'll find it more so in adult twins. They'll say things like, I feel when my sister has had a baby. I feel when my sister has had an injury. And it's kind of this kind of unspoken phenomenon where you can kind of, you know, sense your twin's dilemma or circumstance.
Parents can sense their children when their children are injured because they are so close. But with twins, you guys have shared a womb. They have been together side by side since the day
But the thing that
conception.
contests this is that a lot of these cases with twins, we're only hearing about the cases that are miraculous, right? Where we see twins who supposedly have this connection. Think of how many other cases there are that never see the light of day, of twins who sit next to each other, they go, I don't know what the that one's thinking.
Right, but that doesn't mean they all have it. But I got some examples.
Okay, I'm going to see how your twin telepathy works. Make a funny face. Turn around.
There's only 2 options.
That's exactly the thing.
50-50. There aren't 2 options. I've seen at least 3
That's a 50-50 chance.
Put 1 foot behind you.
Take your hand and put up a number 1 through 5.
The most common choice.
3.
It's 3.
Raise your hand. Spin in a circle.
I like how everyone spun in that direction, though.
No,
they're all right-handed. Because they're all right-handed.
Dance in place.
Touch your elbow. Yeah, the same person.
But is this not proving the point? The things that we see online are the most miraculous videos, the most miraculous examples, so we see this and we say, oh my God,
And how do we
there
know
really
they didn't
is
stage
telepathy.
this ahead of time? It's TikTok, for God's sake.
No, there are plenty of people that I've seen do it live on like TikTok Live where their parents have set it up or they've set it up themselves. So I think there is a chance that they would be doing the same thing.
Can kids take on the personality of their parents?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And can they have the talents of their parents?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
DNA, sure.
if a parent can pass down things about them to their children, why wouldn't you think children who share the womb, who develop at the same time, develop in the same body with the same fluids, that maybe that there is even a stronger connection between them versus a parent and a child?
Because that's environmental. What you're suggesting is environmental,
No,
it's not
I don't
telepathy.
think, I'm not suggesting environmental. I'm saying it's more nature than nurture.
I think it's
with
a
parents.
sixth sense, but also there's a couple of studies where twins were separated, identical twins, identical triplets were separated at birth, and then when they found each other, they realized like, oh, you didn't like math and you really like spelling? Oh, me too. Oh, you do this, you do that? Oh, me too. Oh,
But
this
it speaks to the genetic inheritability of those kinds of issues.
That's totally true. And also, this is cherry picking in full effect. We're seeing the little moments where they're perfect. Even if you let those videos roll, there's other times where you're like, wow, this looks completely different.
What about like a parent, I mean, these terrible examples where a parent knows their child got hurt or even killed, and they just know it when they're in bed.
Because they know their kids' habit patterns. I
Yes.
haven't heard from them at this time.
Yes.
That's not a good sign.
Yes.
You kind of know
No, but like at
the
moment,
routine
they're
of
like,
your
my
kids.
hand hurts and they find out someone got burned, or all of a sudden, you know, my chest is, and that person's having a heart attack. So we talked about this in other cases where this cellular connection, right? Once you're part of a cellular system,
This isn't
you're
cellular.
always connected to theory, right? So you could be thousands of miles apart and there might be some energy we don't understand that's communicating with you.
No,
Hold
on, Ashley went on it.
Let's define the
You're gonna stand up.
let's define the science behind this, right? So brainwaves have electrical impulses. Brainwaves are incredibly weak and incredibly
As
slow.
far as you
Compared to, no, this is science. This is like, yeah, no, this is definitive. So radio waves, for example, extremely high energy. It's like 500 million oscillations in a second. Whereas human brainwaves, it's like 10 or 100. They're incredibly weak. In order for a person to detect the brain waves of somebody else, they would have to hear over all the noise of all of this electrical equipment. That would be like being at a concert and trying to hear the wings of a butterfly flap, right? So it's not about transmission, because there is transmission. That's not the issue. The issue would be the receiving of it.
But then how do you explain subtleties that people are able to absorb?
Well, actually, Andrew said something kind of interesting. You were talking about genetics that are passed down at times. There is a theory of epigenetics, which is really interesting. The idea that inherited trauma can be something that is passed down to an offspring. So in this instance,
for like
it's
2
possible
generations.
That could be,
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, I've heard that one.
They've actually tested this in rabbits where I think they gave them something like cherries and they would shock the mother every time she got a cherry. So when she eventually had offspring, those babies had an aversion to cherries.
I was gonna say, I feel like at that point, you're tapping into a sixth sense, right? Like, how are you able to kind of detect what somebody else is feeling, what somebody else is doing? Like, I can't explain it, I just sense it. I feel something hurting, so that means that such and such is happening.
I have 2 older sisters, and we're all so similar, no surprise, because of DNA, but also environment. I'm sure we can finish each other's sentences despite the age gap because of how we were raised.
Nature and nurture combined.
Yes.
What? Wait, look at each other right now.